Chapter 254. Throughout the morning, Little Apple had devoured at least 10 swift wolves and thorn bears beast spirits. Finally, the 10 gray lines on its forehead had condensed into a silver line. This proved that Little Apple had grown into a 100-year-old spirit beast. Although it was weak, its potential was limitless. Burp. The little fellow sat beside Lin Muyu's legs, burping and lazily basking in the sun. Qin Yin gently stroked Little Apple's head and smiled. It seems that the beast spirits it absorbed this morning have reached its cultivation limit. It needs to digest well before it can continue to devour beast spirits to cultivate. Lin Muyu nodded. She and the little dragon had a soul contract, so she could naturally sense the saturation of the spiritual power in the little dragon's body. However, the little dragon was growing too fast. This saturation state would not last long. It needed more power to grow. In order to raise this little fellow, Lin Muyu was destined to suffer a lot. They had a simple lunch at noon and continued hunting in the afternoon. It seemed that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were no longer interested in hunting, but in raising their pets. Qin Yin's golden rock swift wolf had also devoured many beast spirits. Although it was growing slowly, it was still growing. In fact, Lin Muyu still had a lot of expectations for the golden rock swift wolf. If the golden rock swift wolf could grow to more than 5,000 years, it should be able to protect its master. But obviously the little dragon was more worth looking forward to. It had devoured many beast spirits in one afternoon and had already grown to the realm of 200 years. Under Lin Muyu's suggestion, Qin Yin decided to stay in the dragon-seeking forest for 2 more days. As expected, the little dragon's appetite was even bigger the next day. In just one morning, it had devoured dozens of spirit beasts, wild beast spirits. It looked exactly like a gluttonous snake. But when it was almost noon, the little dragon suddenly let out a strange "ayo-ayo" sound, and a 5th silver line slowly appeared on its head. 500 years. Tang Xiaoxi got off the horse and knelt down to take care of Xiaolong. Is Little Apple all right? He looks like he's in a lot of pain. Lin Muyu could sense the change in the little dragon's power. She shook her head and said, "Don't worry, it's fine. It's just that its body is full of spiritual power. It seems like it needs to release." Really? Tang Xiaoxi asked in surprise. How does it release it? This. Lin Muyu couldn't explain it clearly. However, at this moment, the cries of the little dragon suddenly became even more mournful. It raised its head high and even its fangs extended. Flames slowly rose from its mouth and its body also began to change. It seemed to be growing and its body became more muscular. The red crystal scales all over its body also became larger, reflecting an extremely bright luster under the sunlight. Hum. Suddenly, the little dragon raised its tail and released 2 whiffs of foul air. It was extremely smelly. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly took a few steps back. Their beautiful faces paled. Little Apple, it's... Lin Muyu chuckled. That's right. Farting is how it releases its energy. Perhaps there are too many impurities in the wild beast souls it devoured, so it's releasing them in this way. Of course, Lin Muyu knew that the Acatosaurus in front of her was not just simply farting. It was undergoing its first draconic transformation. That's right, it was a necessary step for a young dragon to evolve into an adult dragon. In less than 10 minutes, the little dragon's body had doubled in size. It already looked like a large dog. At the same time, its 4 claws had become particularly strong, and the claws looked as sharp as a knife. Under the soul contract, Lin Muyu could feel the changes in the little dragon's heart. It had already obtained its first draconic transformation ability. Turning around, she looked at Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiao Yin, do you want to see the power of a 500-year-old Acatosaurus? Qin Yin opened her small mouth. Little Apple can already fight? Yes, it can. Lin Muyu ordered telepathically. Little Apple, let me see your power. Woo! The little dragon raised its head and let out a proud roar. This time it finally had a little bit of the dignity of the dragon race. In the next second, it had already rushed out, heading straight for an ancient pine tree with a diameter of nearly 50 centimeters not far away. Its speed did not decrease at all. It's going to hit the tree. Tang Xiaoxi almost could not bear to watch. However, just as it was about to hit the tree, the little dragon suddenly raised its front claws. With a whoosh, the dragon power condensed into a sharp claw at least half a meter long. With a sudden strike, the huge pine tree was instantly cut in half. Amidst the rumbling sound, the huge tree slowly collapsed. It was a very shocking scene. That tree, is that the legendary iron pine tree? Qin Yin's small face was full of shock. It actually broke the iron pine tree with just one claw. Heavens, such power. The iron pine tree was a distant relative of the iron pear flower. They were all plants with an iron layer growing on their surface. They were indestructible and even swords could not penetrate them. However, an Acatosaurus's attack had easily cut it in half. Lin Muyu knew that she could do it easily with the dragon spirit sword. However, this Acatosaurus was only 500 years old. A 500-year-old spiritual beast could not possibly cut the iron pine tree. Awoo! The little dragon wagged its tail and ran back to Lin Muyu asking for credit. Lin Muyu patted its head and said with a smile, "Not bad, not bad. It's only the first time you've transformed into a dragon and you already have such strength. You really don't disappoint me." In the game Conquer as an Einherjar, Lin Muyu owned an Acatosaurus. The Acatosaurus in the game was exactly the same as the little dragon in front of her. Even their abilities were the same. The ability obtained from the first dragon transformation was called Phantom Claw. It could transform into a dragon's claw to attack its target. The legendary Acatosaurus had sharp teeth and claws. However, the little apple was getting bigger and bigger. This made Lin Muyu a little worried. She could not possibly bring such a big guy around in the future, could she? After that, the little dragon did not eat anything. After its first dragon transformation, it needed a long period of rest. Otherwise, its body would not be able to withstand such a strong power. Back in her room in the palace, Lin Muyu was still unhappy. She was worried about the little dragon's future size. At this moment, the voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from her high again. "Lin Ruoji, let's make a deal. How about it?" "Oh, what deal do I have with you?" Lin Muyu said. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. "In your world, you are the son of a business tycoon. Don't you understand the principle of mutual benefit? You help me with something and I will help you with something. How about that? Then tell me, what can you help me with?" Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled. "Do you know about breaking through the void?" "Breaking through the void?" Lin Muyu shook her head in surprise. "I don't know." The 7 luminaries demon emperor's tone was full of disdain. "You are indeed a weak fool. Let me tell you, your current cultivation is the heavenly state. The next step is the holy state. However, the holy state is just a small stop in the process of cultivation. The ultimate goal of cultivation is to live forever. If you want to have eternal life, step into the godly state, refine your soul and get rid of your mortal body. This is the direction you are pursuing. And then, every cultivator who steps into the first heaven of the godly state will automatically understand the power of breaking through the void. Only by mastering the power of breaking through the void can you break through the laws of space. This also means that after stepping into the godly state, you can perform a short-distance space jump and use your divine power to forcefully open a crack in space. As long as you do me a favor, I can teach you in advance the power of breaking through the void that only gods have. As long as you master the basics of breaking through the void, you will naturally be able to open a crack in space for your Acatosaurus, allowing it to live in a different space. When you need it, you can summon it back to the Shattered Cauldron realm where you are. There's such a good thing. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Then what you want me to do for you, it must not be something good, right? Tell me about it first. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. Oh, it's actually very simple. I just hope that you can open the second realm of the Sea of Will, so that I can cultivate in the second realm of the Sea of Will and enjoy the rest of my life. Cultivate in the Sea of Will? Lin Muyu was shocked. Yes, that's right. The 7 brilliance demon monarch said with a hint of pride. The truth is, everyone's EC contains an endless amount of energy. You just need to open up the second layer of your EC for me, and I'll be able to plant a field with the spiritual root in my EC. Otherwise, I'll be bored to death doing nothing all day. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. 7 luminaries demon emperor, do you think I'm a monkey? No matter how stupid I am, I can guess that you want to use the energy derived from the spirit fields to enrich your spiritual energy and use it to counterattack me. Isn't that right? The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed loudly. You're indeed not stupid, but you have that damn cauldron. It's enough to contend against this emperor's 7th luminary's profound energy. What are you worried about? I'm not worried. Lin Muyu regained her composure. She smiled faintly. Deal. This time, it was the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor who was shocked. Brat, are you crazy? You dare to make a deal with me like this? What's there to be afraid of? I need the power to shatter the void. Good ha, you've got guts. This emperor likes idiots who aren't afraid of death like you. Come, in the next few days I will teach you the essentials of shattering the void. However, your body can't withstand the mighty distortion of space, so you can only learn a little. You can use it to transport a Catasaurus, but forget about your own body. It will be torn to pieces by the power of the plane. Got it. Sitting upright on the bed, she opened the second layer of her Sea of Will. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's profound energy quickly occupied this layer. Spiritual roots were planted in the Sea of Will and grew rapidly. At the same time, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's soul also gifted a large amount of energy to Lin Muyu. In an instant, a strong force surged into her brain. Lin Muyu let out a muffled groan and fainted on the bed. Chapter 255. By the time she woke up, it was already nightfall. Lin Muyu shook her head vigorously. She still felt that her mind was a little sluggish, but she could clearly feel a very mysterious power surging in her body. She stood up. Not far away, the little dragon was curled up in a corner and sleeping soundly. This sleep seemed to have made its body grow a lot. Looking at her palm, Lin Muyu was secretly a little suspicious. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor had promised to teach her the power to break through the void. What was it exactly? He could not feel it at all now. She focused her spiritual sense and sank her chi into her dantian, guiding the mysterious power in her body to slowly move around. This power seemed to have its own intelligence and moved to her legs. It swelled up and even shone with a dazzling dark blue light through her combat boots. It had reached the point where she had to use it. Lin Muyu's breathing became more and more rapid. Finally, she could not suppress this power anymore. Her combat boots suddenly stomped on the ground. Suddenly, with a schwa sound, mysterious dark blue energy cubes appeared in her field of vision. The cubes bloomed one by one as if she could reach out and touch them. With her as the axis, they spread out in 3 directions. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Ever since she came to this world, she had seen many mysterious powers. The power of the martial soul, fighting energy, and so on. They were all very mysterious, but never as mysterious as this power in front of her. It could be described as vast as the sea, as deep as the stars. Moreover, the scenery in front of her seemed to have disappeared. The bed, the armor hanging on it, and the little dragon had all disappeared. All Lin Muyu could see was the divine space constructed by the energy cubes. The voice of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor came from her high. Hey Lin Muyu, this is what you will see when you first enter the divine state. I will let you experience it first. Breaking through the void is not that easy to understand. The energy space you see in front of you is the most basic structure of this world. You must use your own power to break this rule in order to break through the void. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and stood still. She slowly urged her vigorous fighting energy to tear through this 3-dimensional space. However, it seemed that she did not have the strength to do so. Only divine power could break the rules of space. How could his fighting energy break through it? Break. The dragon spirit sword slashed heavily on the energy grid, but sparks burst out. The tyrannical power of space was like steel, causing Lin Muyu and her sword to fly back. She turned around and stood firm. Her face was covered in sweat. This was the 27th time she had tried to break through this space with her martial soul and fighting energy, but she had failed every time. In her high, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor could be faintly seen. They had already planted a lush green corn field and a lush green rice field in the second layer of Lin Muyu's high. What are you looking at? The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch was squatting in the spiritual field, straightening a stalk of corn with his palm. He raised his head and glanced into the sky. He said smilingly after sensing Lin Muyu's gaze, "Just focus on studying your space-shattering art. There's no point talking about it if you can't even pass the most basic stage." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Her body appeared in the air of the high. She stretched out her hand and pointed, "You are planting these things in my high? I want half of the benefits." The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor stared and said, "You are too greedy. You want half? Do you think I, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, am a vegetarian? I will at most give you 20%. Stop talking nonsense. You are planting spiritual fields in my Yi. You're at most a tenant farmer. What right do you have to challenge me? I said I want half, so I want half. Actually, Lin Muyu did not know what these spiritual fields were for, but she still wanted to take the benefits. What was there to be polite with the 7 luminaries demon emperor? All right. The 7 luminaries demon emperor compromised. He stood majestically in the middle of the spiritual fields. The power of the 3rd level of the godly state enshrouded his body. His aura was majestic, as if he wanted to twist the entire space. He smiled and said, Lin Ruoji, you better study your divine power. I have given you about 5% of my divine power. If you do not make good use of it, it will be too much of a waste. You gave me 5% of your divine power? Lin Muyu was shocked. 5% of his divine power was equivalent to 5% of the 7 luminaries demon emperor's divine power. Although the 7 luminaries demon emperor had less than 10% of his original divine power, with his strength at his peak even 0.5% of his divine power should be enough for Lin Muyu to dominate the world, right? Where is the divine power? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed and said, divine power is an energy substance. Naturally, it is in your energy sea. Do you think it is in your head? Feel it well. The part of your energy sea that is most different from the essence of your power was given to you by me. Oh, Lin Muyu did feel that there was something strange in his energy sea. It turned out that the 7 luminaries demon emperor was so generous. Hence, he paid attention to the body in the energy sea and cupped his fists and said, thank you, 7 luminaries demon emperor. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was stunned. He never knew that this kid could be so courteous. In the past, when he saw him, he would shout and kill him. At this moment, the 7 luminaries demon emperor was speechless. When he wanted to speak, he looked up and saw that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense had already flown out of his Yi. Hong hong hong. In her chi sea, streams of battle energy were extremely vigorous, surging like raging waves. Lin Muyu tried her best to circulate her battle energy, trying to find that strange divine power. After about 10 minutes, she finally found a ray of golden light in the midst of the waves in her chi sea. Found it. Come out. With a low roar, the divine power was immediately summoned. It appeared directly in the palm of his hand and lingered around his fingers like waves of ripples. It looked soft, but the destructive power contained within was very shocking. Lin Muyu leaped into the air, condensed her left hand into a palm, and slammed it down on the energy cube not far away. Peng! This time it worked. It directly blasted a big hole in the energy square, and a small space crack appeared. However, this space crack existed for less than 0.1 seconds before it closed again, which made Lin Muyu very sad. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's arrogant laughter came from the Yi. Lin Muyu, you idiot, divine power is not used like this. Lin Muyu frowned. Yes, he also felt that the 0.5% divine power that the 7 luminaries demon emperor gave him was enough to cut through space. But why couldn't he succeed? At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came from outside. Mu, it's time for dinner. Come out quickly. He was slightly startled and hurriedly said, Xiaoxi, I'm cultivating. I won't be eating. Help me get some meat and put it in your room. When I'm done cultivating, I'll go to your room. Hey. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin had gone far away. Lin Muyu continued to concentrate on his cultivation, but this time he was not in a hurry to cut through space. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the axis where he was. His spiritual sense slowly spread out, feeling the mysteries of this space. After a few hours, he suddenly remembered that his position was the axis of space, and the directions of the energy squares were in the X, Y, and Z axis. This was not some divine power cutting through space at all, but clearly a dimensional space. Dimension. That's right, this was it. Although Lin Muyu was the king of games, his results were not bad. He was also very knowledgeable in astrophysics. The space that people were in was a 3-dimensional space, but if the void shattering really existed, it would be equivalent to destroying this 3-dimensional space. But how could one surpass the 3 dimensions of the 3-dimensional space? Perhaps, it would require the power of the 4th dimension. From the beginning, the 7 luminaries demon emperor did not really teach him how to step through the void shattering. Instead, he gave him a concept for himself to explore. The so-called power of the void shattering, in other words, Was the power of a godly state expert transformed into the fourth dimension? That's right, it was the power of the fourth dimension. Lin Muyu was suddenly ecstatic. He had found the trick. As long as the speed of his attack exceeded the speed of light and reached the definition of the power of the fourth dimension, he would be able to break the laws of space and cut a hole in the existing space. That's right, that's it. He suddenly stood up. This time he did not accumulate the divine power in his palms, but in the soles of his feet. He released his spiritual sense, and the power of the virtual body moved quickly in the three-dimensional space, running all the way to the north of the dragon-seeking forest. With the divine power added to the fallen star steps, his speed was a little shocking, getting faster and faster, approaching the speed of light. Lin Muyu could not help but wail. Moving at the speed of light constantly burned his spiritual sense, and at the same time, brought unimaginable pain to his body. Now, the 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly shouted in the sea. Lin Muyu understood. His spiritual sense, which was thousands of miles away, suddenly struck out with his palm. Bang! Amidst the shocking sound, the flames in the forest north of Seven Seas City exploded, and a huge space crack with a radius of about 2 meters appeared in the forest. Not far away, a few cloud deer called out and pricked up their ears, looking very surprised. When Lin Muyu withdrew his power, the space crack also closed naturally. He let out a light breath and sat on the ground softly. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled and said, I didn't expect you to really understand the profound meaning of the power to break through the void. You really did not let me down. However, so what if you open the space crack thousands of miles away? I can break through the space 1 meter in front of me. You are still far from it. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. 7 luminaries demon emperor, I know this is very difficult, but I will work hard. Also, this so-called power to break through the void. In fact, in my world it is called the four-dimensional power. As long as the attack speed reaches the speed of light, it can achieve the effect of breaking through space. In this aspect, I'm afraid there is a person called Einstein who has studied it more thoroughly than you. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was stunned and was speechless again. Lin Muyu rested for a short while and continued to cultivate. What he needed to do was to raise the speed of his spiritual sense to the speed of light in the shortest time possible. It would be best if he could reach the speed of light within 10 meters, and he could only do this with his spiritual sense. As for his physical body, just like what the 7 luminaries demon emperor said, he was immortal and could not withstand the impact of such speed friction. Chapter 256. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense and divine power finally became more compatible. She was able to create a spatial crack 10 miles away, but it was still too far away. She couldn't possibly let Xiaolong find the spatial crack 10 miles away and enter it, right? At this moment she was exhausted and didn't have enough physical strength to support her cultivation. She went out and went to the next door. She knocked on the door and asked, Xiaoxi, are you asleep? Creak. The door opened. Tang Xiaoxi was only wearing pajamas. She rubbed her eyes and said, Why did Mu cultivate so late? Crazy. Xiaoyin is asleep. The food I brought for you is on the table. Okay, thank you. Lin Muyu smiled and walked over. When she turned around, she realized that Qin Yin had indeed fallen asleep. The moonlight shone on her beautiful face, giving off a bright glow. She was sleeping very peacefully and was extremely charming. The food was placed in a golden cauldron. Lin Muyu picked it up and whispered, I'll go back to my room to eat. Xiaoxi, you should also go to bed early and rest well. Are we going back to Lanyan City tomorrow? Yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said with a smile, We've been out for almost 3 days. His Majesty sent someone to visit Xiaoyin and said that he misses her very much, so Xiaoyin decided to leave tomorrow. Will this affect Xiaoyin's cultivation? It won't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Xiaolong has absorbed too much spiritual power. He needs to digest it for a period of time to grow, so there's no need to be too anxious. Lin Muyu carried the golden pot out of the door and looked back at Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Sleep early. Good night. Himu. Good night. Tang Xiaoxi rubbed her beautiful eyes and went back to sleep. On the other side of the corridor, Chu Huijin stood in the darkness with his hand on his sword. He stood straight and looked straight ahead. He silently guarded outside the room of the princess and princess. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Brother Chu, are you asleep? Zhou Xian chuckled. Yes, I'm a little worried about other people keeping watch, but I didn't see anything. You can do whatever you want, hee. F***ck. Lin Muyu grinned and carried the golden cauldron back to his room. He had to cultivate the fourth dimension as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep the little dragon growing day by day. After returning to his room, he wolfed down a cauldron of delicious food. He felt that he couldn't fall asleep, so he continued to cultivate the fourth dimension. Gradually, the strand of divine power given by the seven luminaries Demon Emperor no longer rejected Lin Muyu's spiritual sense, body and battle energy. It was even able to coexist with battle energy. This made Lin Muyu very happy. The more perfect the compatibility, the faster his spiritual sense could move. Perhaps he could really do what the seven luminaries Demon Emperor did and create a crack in space nearby. After cultivating again and again, this strand of divine power had become a treasure. Not only did it greatly increase the strength of his spiritual sense, it also seemed to be refining Lin Muyu's physique, bones and blood. Although he wasn't a godly state ranker, he seemed to have inherited the power of a godly state ranker. By early morning, the results of his cultivation were obvious. His spiritual sense was like a bullet that could already create a crack in space 3 miles away. However, it was still far from enough. If he wanted it to be practical, he had to create a crack in space within 100 meters. However, he didn't have time to cultivate anymore. After breakfast, he got on the horse and wrapped the little dragon in a black cloth bag. Then he escorted Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to Lanyan City. He didn't stay idle during the journey. The strand of divine power given by the seven luminaries Demon Emperor slowly circulated in his body, increasing his compatibility with the power. Lin Muyu secretly felt that it was a pity that the seven luminaries Demon Emperor wasn't one of them. Otherwise, if he gave her more divine power, she might be able to ascend to become a god while she was still alive. The seven brilliance demon monarch in Lin Muyu's will see swiftly read his thoughts. He could not help but burst out laughing. Lin Muyu, don't even think about it. My talents are unparalleled. I don't mind giving you more god force, but your flesh and soul can only endure this much god force. If I give you more, it will only destroy you and you will die from the backlash of the god force. Lin Muyu's expression changed drastically. Lin Muyu nodded. His spiritual sense entered his high and said, I have seen a battle between gods. It was the battle between you and Qin Yi and the others in the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, I know my own limits and have a certain amount of respect for gods. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes widened. He pointed at the spiritual field behind him and scolded, After I accidentally entered your high, have you ever respected me at all? Damn, hypocrite. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. That's all a misunderstanding. Who asked you to only think about taking over my body all day? If there was such a person living in your body, you wouldn't be able to respect me. At least you know what's good for you. The seven brilliance demon monarch said with a calm smile. However, the truth isn't what you think it is. The battle between me and Qin Yi and the other martial god realm experts did not happen a few months ago but 200 years ago. What? 200 years ago? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. How is that possible? If it was a battle that happened 200 years ago, how could I have seen it? I'm only in my 20s. That's why I said your knowledge is too shallow. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Qin Yi, that old bastard, is full of schemes and schemes. He can be considered a hero of his generation. He had long cultivated to the 3rd level of God state and became a true God Emperor. Therefore he used the God Emperor's battle samsara power to reverse time and lured me into the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, although you saw that battle, it had already ended 200 years ago. It was just that you entered a space-time gap, so you were lucky enough to obtain a tiny bit of this Emperor's seven luminaries' profound energy. Battle samsara. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She muttered, Demon Emperor, you're saying, a God Emperor at the 3rd level of God state can use his divine power to reverse time? Yes. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor said faintly, but this power cannot change the course of history. However, it seems like you are an exception. You entered a space-time gap 200 years ago and actually managed to come to the plane 200 years later. Forget it, this is probably fate. If it wasn't for you, this Emperor's soul would have been scattered 200 years ago and I would have perished together with that old bastard Qin Yi. As he said that, the 7 luminaries demon emperor sat down on the cornfield and laughed happily. To think that even now that old bastard Qin has already perished, yet this emperor can still plant spiritual fields here. Haha, this is the difference between strength and luck. Humph, that scheming villain Qin is destined to not be as happy as this emperor. Lin Muyu's face was filled with contempt. However, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's words were too shocking. She had actually experienced a war that ended 200 years ago and brought the soul of the 7 luminaries demon emperor 200 years into the future. This was indeed an opportunity. Thinking about it carefully, if it wasn't for the 7 luminaries demon emperor's help, she would probably have become a pile of desolate bones under the iron hooves of this world. At this moment, the first cornfield in the spiritual field had ripened. The 7 luminaries demon emperor let out a low roar and began to absorb the spiritual energy of the crops in the spiritual field. In the blink of an eye, the stalks of corn shriveled up. The rich spiritual energy continuously surged into the 7 luminaries demon emperor's body, causing his damaged soul to rapidly recover. At this rate, within half a year, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's soul would probably recover completely. At that time, how would Lin Muyu be able to control him? As if he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts, the 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his head and smiled. Don't worry, this emperor's goal is to trample the god realm. I won't fight with a weakling like you for this human continent, nor will I kill you. As long as I find a suitable body in the future, you just need to help me a little. Open your eye and let me go. Lin Muyu curled her lips. As if I'd believe you. You said you would give me half of the spiritual field, so I want the other half of the cornfield. Okay. At this moment, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense entered his eye and condensed his primordial spirit body. With a leap, he landed in the cornfield, broke off a stalk of corn and sniffed it. There was a fragrant smell and, more importantly, it contained supreme spiritual energy. Lin Muyu didn't care that much and took a bite. The corn juice immediately splashed out. So fragrant. As he chewed, spiritual energy continuously surged into his body, replenishing the battle energy that he had lost during cultivation. This was indeed good stuff. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was indeed a qualified tenant farmer. Thus, after eating half of the spiritual corn, Lin Muyu's physical strength and battle energy had almost recovered to the peak. He sat on the horse and closed his eyes as he walked. The forging dragon bone manual circulated in his body. He had to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he survive, reach the god realm and obtain the power of reincarnation. Time would flow back. No matter how long it took, he could return to the real world, see his young father and brother and live the life he wanted. They arrived at Zetian Palace in the afternoon and ordered Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others to return to Eagle Nest Mountain. Lin Muyu entered the palace and went to see the emperor with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Huaying. After not seeing them for 3 days, Qin Jin's complexion seemed to have improved a little. However, he still looked old. As he watched Qin Yin and the others enter the main hall, he could not help but reveal an expression of relief. He said, "Little Yin, how have you been in the hunting grounds these past few days?" Qin Yin smiled. "I've been very happy." "Ha, as long as you're happy." Qin Yin walked up to Qin Jin and gently massaged his shoulders. She asked with a smile, "Father, how is the investigation on Xianxia going?" Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and said, "On the day of General Su Qin's assassination, Xianxia wasn't present, so he can't escape responsibility. However, he denies it and refuses to plead guilty. Commander Feng Jixing is currently interrogating him." "What if he refuses to plead guilty?" Qin Yin asked. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and said calmly, "Even if Xianxia didn't personally assassinate General Su Qin in the Dragon Search Forest, it must have been done by someone he entrusted. Moreover, Xianxia is the descendant of the war god Xiang Wentin and has been arrogant in the imperial capital for a long time. I plan to remove Xianxia from his position as the commander of the military police and exile him to Tongtian province. What do you think, Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin gently waved her hand and said with a smile, "Father is wise. I heard that Xianxia and Jin Yifan are very close in private. Keeping him alive would be a threat to the emperor, so exiling him would be the best choice. However, the commander-in-chief of the military police is very important. Does father have a candidate in mind?" Chapter 257. Qin Jin's gaze fell on the two people at the foot of the throne. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin were indeed the best of the best. Their loyalty and strength were not a problem, and both of them could intimidate the military police battalion, so they were not uncontrollable. As long as Xiangyu left, the military police battalion would be without a leader. After removing a few kiliarchs and reappointing new kiliarchs, this army would actually have a change of ownership. As if seeing through Qin Jin's thoughts, Lin Muyu smiled helplessly and cupped her fists. Imperial Father, I really don't have the strength. Chief Deacon Lei Hong has already appointed me as the new deacon of the Holy Cathedral. Coupled with my duties in the Eagle Nest camp, I'm afraid I can't take up an important position in the military police battalion. Imperial Father, please find another capable person. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, all right then, Ayu doesn't need to be the commander, but the position of the commander of the military police battalion is just as Little Yin said, it's very important and it must be someone I rely on. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Your Majesty, do you trust and rely on Xiaoxi? Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. Xiaoxi is a girl. The military police battalion is full of uncouth men. It's really not suitable. Chu Huayin, I ask you, are you willing to be the commander of the military police battalion? Chu Huayin was startled and hesitated. Why are you not willing? Qin Jin was a little surprised and said, you should know that although there are only 2,000 people in the military police battalion, they have the greatest authority in the entire army of the empire. If you were to become the commander of the military police battalion, your military rank would be equivalent to that of a general. It would be much more powerful than this little Dragon Guard commander and deputy general. Chu Huayin's expression was solemn. He looked up at the emperor and cupped his fists. Your Majesty, Chu Huayin doesn't want to be the commander of the military police battalion, but I want to be a general who can charge and break through enemy lines for your Majesty. If your Majesty trusts Chu Huayin, please transfer Chu Huayin to be the commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. Chu Huayin is willing to fight for your Majesty without hesitation. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile, and his face was filled with a gratified expression as he said, fine. Feng Jixing isn't strong enough to command 30,000 Imperial Guards. Those 17,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion are elite soldiers after all. Fine. I'll approve of you. I'll immediately promote Chu Huayin to be the commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. He'll be in charge of the 17,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion. At the same time, he'll be in charge of the Dragon Guards. What do you think? Chu Huayin was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, thank you for your grace, your Majesty. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, you must be loyal to Xiao Yin in the future and work hard for the empire. Yes, your Majesty, this general obeys. Qin Yin, who was by Qin Jin's side, pouted and said, but Imperial Father still hasn't chosen the commander of the military police battalion. Sigh. Qin Jin was a little vexed as he said, there are too few people that I can use. Originally, Feng Jixing was resolute and courageous, and he could take on great responsibilities. However, he's the commander of the Imperial Guards, and he's responsible for the safety of the Imperial City. As for Qin Lei, he's too upright and straightforward and he's easily broken. He's not very suitable to be the commander of the military police battalion. Xiaoyin, do you have any other recommendations? To everyone's surprise, Qin Yin gracefully bowed like a virtuous lady and said with a smile, your daughter recommends herself. What? Qin Jin, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin and the others were all stunned. How can you do that? You're the heir to the throne. Why not? Qin Yin met her father's gaze and said with a smile, it's precisely because I'm the heir to the throne that I should understand the Empire's army better. The military police battalion administers the army's military laws. What position is closer to the various commander-in-chief of the Empire's army than the commander of the military police battalion? If Xiao Yin wants to truly control the Empire's army, she must take this step. Imperial Father, Xiao Yin has grown up. She's no longer that frail Qin Yin. Qin Jin frowned, his expression uncertain. After a while he raised his head and asked, you Chu Huayin, what do you think? Chu, what do you think? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Xiao Yin's recommendation is a little shocking, but if you think about it, it makes sense. As long as your Majesty assigns a few capable dragon guards to take up important positions in the military police battalion and control the army, Xiaoyin will naturally be able to control the military police battalion first and then the entire empire's army. As for safety, I can assign 20 eagle guards to act as Xiaoyin's personal bodyguards. Qin Jin said, Xiaoyin is the heir to the empire's throne and my only hope. Nothing can happen to her safety. At the side, Chu Chu cupped his fists and said with a smile, Your Majesty, why don't we do this? I will oversee the Zetian Palace and protect Your Majesty. Your Majesty can issue an imperial edict to the Divine Sanctum's Grand Deacon Lei Hong and order him to be the deputy commander of the military police battalion and protect Her Highness at all times. As for the Divine Sanctum, since Yu is here, why don't we let this fellow gain more experience and hold the authority of the Grand Deacon? Qin Jin smiled. That's a good idea. You're still young and inexperienced. Imperial Father can't promote you to be the Divine Sanctum's Grand Deacon. Are you willing to hold the authority of the Grand Deacon as a deacon? Lin Muyu smiled helplessly and cupped her fists. Then that's the only way. All right, then it's decided. Qin Jin laughed heartily and his gaze fell on Qin Yin. Xiaoyin, it's not that easy to be the commander of the military police battalion. You have to consult Grand Deacon Lei Hong on everything, understand? I understand, Imperial Father. I'll go and make the preparations immediately. Tomorrow morning I'll send Xiangyu to set off from Zetian Palace. All of you have to attend. Yes. After the meeting was over, Lin Muyu brought the imperial edict back to the Divine Sanctum. When she handed it over to Lei Hong, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. To think that I actually became a deputy commander at such an old age. I, Lei Hong, have always been indifferent to fame and fortune and was unwilling to accept any military position. But now I've become a deputy commander. Lin Muyu chuckled. Grand Deacon, your mission is only to accompany and protect Her Highness Yin. As for the position of deputy commander, it's just an empty title. You should understand very well. Lei Hong placed the imperial edict aside and looked deeply at Lin Muyu. The imperial edict mentioned that you'll temporarily hold all the authority of the Grand Deacon. In the future, all the matters of the Divine Sanctum will be handed over to you. Lin Muyu replied respectfully, I'll definitely be careful and won't let you down. All right, I'll set off in the afternoon. Lei Hong glanced at Guyang, who was not far away, and said, Deacon Guyang, when I'm not around, you have to listen to Deacon Lin and assist her wholeheartedly. Do you understand? Guyang cupped his hands and smiled. This old man understands. In the afternoon, Lei Hong packed his luggage and went to the military police camp. He brought scrolls of scrolls with him. These were his treasures. Lei Hong had been researching all kinds of martial arts his entire life. It seemed that these were his pursuits. Lin Muyu led Qin Yan, Guyang and the rest to send Lei Hong to the door. Then they returned to the Divine Sanctum. Guyang smiled respectfully. I've already cleaned up the Divine Sanctum's meeting hall. It'll be your workplace. Take a look first. I'll bring you the files that you need to review today later. Oh, all right. Lin Muyu followed Guyang to the center of the Divine Sanctum. The meeting hall had been covered in dust for a long time. At this time it was clean. A huge desk was placed under the window. On top of the desk, there was a pendulum inlaid with the Divine Sanctum's emblem. Lin Muyu sat behind the desk. She actually felt a little satisfaction in her heart. She had never used such a huge desk before. The treatment of a Grand Deacon was indeed different, even though she was just a temporary Grand Deacon. 2 Divine Sanctum guards stood in front of the door. There was also a 40-year-old servant called Jin Sang. However, Lin Muyu usually called him Uncle Jin. Deacon Lin, would you like black tea or green tea in the afternoon? Jin Sang asked respectfully. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at him. She smiled. A cup of green tea. Thank you, Uncle Jin. You're welcome, Deacon. I'll be right there. Not long after Jin Sang left, Guyang came with a huge stack of files. He placed them all on the desk and smiled. These are all the things that need to be dealt with today. Take a look. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. All right. Thank you, Deacon Guyang. Lin Muyu opened the first file. It clearly said, recruitment. The trial hall is short of 4 guards. We're specially recruiting 4 guards at the second sky of the mortal realm. The estimated cost is 50 Jin Yin coins per person. That's a total of 200 Jin Yin coins. There was nothing more to say. Lin Muyu wrote her name on the file and added the Grand Deacon's seal. She then looked at the next file. Repairs. 24 damaged weapons in 3 days. The total repair cost is 147 Jin coins. The warehouse has already paid for it. Please approve. Lin Muyu wrote her name and stamped the Grand Deacon's seal. She then looked at some trivial matters such as how many goats and chickens were consumed during the banquet. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It really wasn't easy being the Grand Deacon of the Sacred Hall. Furthermore, it wasn't the end of the month yet. Otherwise, she would still have to pay the instructors and sparring partners. That would probably be even more of a headache. However, she didn't know that there was still more to worry about. Not long after, someone knocked on the door. It was Wei Chao's voice. Commander, are you inside? Come in. Lin Muyu said. Wei Chao carried a pile of scrolls and walked in with a smile on his face. Commander, these are some of the unresolved scrolls for the Eagle Nest camp this month. Most of them are related to equipment repairs, rations and the like. Please take a look and then sign your approval. Without your signature, the military supplies department will not give us any supplies. *C. Lin Muyu groaned inwardly. Her head was already swollen, while Guyang chuckled at the side without saying anything. When it was almost dusk, they finally finished dealing with all the scrolls on the table. Lin Muyu sighed. He finally had some time to cultivate the four-dimensional energy at night. However, he was too optimistic. Not long after, Zhang Wei came to the sacred hall with a jar of wine. He said that he was here to reminisce and find some old friends to drink with. There was nothing to do that night. She had a hangover. The next day, before she woke up, Jin Sang's voice came from outside. Deacon Lin, you still have something to do today. You need to go to the Zetian Hall early in the morning to escort Xiang Yu's prisoner carriage out of the city. Oh. Lin Muyu jumped to her feet. Yes, this was an order from Qin Jin himself. She couldn't afford to be negligent. Chapter 258. Early in the morning, the bright sunlight shone upon Zetian Palace Hall. When Lin Muyu arrived on her horse, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Huaying, Qin Yin and the others had already arrived. In the distance, a prisoner's carriage was pushed out from Zetian Palace Hall. It was escorted by dozens of imperial guards. Inside the carriage, Xiang Yu was dressed in a prisoner's uniform. His hands were locked by heavy metal chains. 2 metal chains had pierced through the major acupoints in his chest, preventing him from circulating his battle chi. This was equivalent to crippling his martial arts. At this moment, the arrogant look on Xiang Yu's face had already vanished. However, his gaze towards Lin Muyu and the others was filled with disdain and anger. The once unruly military police camp commander had ended up in such a state. It was truly a pity. Lin Muyu walked forward and said calmly, Xiang Yu, we're here to send you off. Xiang Yu sneered. Lin Muyu, being in the king's company is like being with a tiger. Ah. You fools think that Qin Jin will really trust you forever? Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold. Shut up. You're already a prisoner. How dare you spout nonsense? Ah. Xiang Yu trembled as he laughed. His face was ashen and filled with despair. Even though he was in the prisoner's carriage, he still turned his head and looked coldly at Lin Muyu. He shouted, Lin Muyu, do you really think that I was the one who assassinated Su Qin? You've all been deceived, you bunch of fools. Lin Muyu spurred her horse forward and said calmly, that night at the post house, you know very well whether or not you were the one who assassinated Su Qin, right? Xiang Yu said, that night was indeed me. However, the assassination of Su Qin in the dragon-seeking forest was definitely not done by me. I, Xiang Yu, dare to take responsibility for my actions. There's nothing I don't dare to admit. However, you want to pin the blame on me for something I didn't do? I refuse to accept this. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Xiang Yu turned his head and scolded angrily, Lin Muyu, you idiot. You're a stupid pig. Qin Yin raised an eyebrow. Xiang Yu, you're still cursing Big Brother, you? Don't tell me you don't want to be exiled to Heavenspan Province? Do you just want a quick death? If that's the case, I don't mind changing my father's mind. Xiang Yu's gaze was ice cold. Qin Yin, there isn't a single good person in your Qin family. You are a bunch of ungrateful people. Your Qin family is a bunch of despicable people. Shut up. Lin Muyu growled. Xiang Yu laughed. Perhaps it was due to his excitement, his wrist rubbed against the iron lock, causing blood to flow. he said loudly, borrowing Su Qin's hand to kill Hu Tianing, a feudal lord of a town. Then borrowing my name Xiangyu to get rid of Duke Yun's only son. Finally, borrowing Su Qin's death to consign me to eternal damnation. What a good way to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Qinjin, oh Qinjin. In this world, who is more scheming than you? In order to pave the way for your daughter, what can't you sacrifice? You won't have a good death. You definitely won't have a good death. I Xiangyu curse you to die by a sword. Feng Jixing said angrily. Someone stuff his mouth with a piece of cotton cloth. Yes. 2 imperial guards stepped forward and stuffed Xiangyu's mouth. Lin Muyu held her sword and slowly escorted him to the right side of the prisoner's carriage. Her expression was gloomy and her heart was in turmoil. She suddenly thought of many things that she shouldn't have thought about. Yes, this world was so sinister. Who wouldn't scheme against others? If these were really Qin Jin's schemes, then Lin Muyu could understand everything. After leaving the city, Chu Huayin personally led 1,000 cavalrymen from the Flying Mount Battalion to escort Xiangyu to Tongtian province. The journey back and forth would take more than a month. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yan had already returned after leaving the city. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing escorted Chu Huayin for a longer distance. Feng Jixing led a group of imperial guards to bring up the rear. Lin Muyu urged her horse to catch up with Chu Huayin, who was at the front of the group. She smiled and said, Brother Chu, I'm sure you won't be back for a long time after going to Tongtian province, right? Chu Huaimian nodded and said, You remember to take care of Yao while you're in the capital. Visit her more often. Otherwise, I won't be at ease leaving her alone in the capital. Got it. Brother Chu, don't worry. I'll visit her often. Okay, that's good. Chu Huayin nodded gently. Suddenly, there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He lowered his voice and said to Lin Muyu, Maybe I won't go too far. I'll return to Lanyan City in 3 to 5 days. Lin Muyu seemed to understand something, and her heart ached as if it was being pricked by needles. Her Majesty summoned me to Zetian Palace late last night for a lecture. You're extremely smart, so you should be able to guess some things. Originally, Her Majesty intended to let you handle this matter, but she was worried that you would be too benevolent, so she didn't choose you. Instead, she chose me, the new commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. Chu Huayin's eyes flickered a few times and his gaze became sharp. He said, But it doesn't matter. I'm the most suitable person to handle this matter. I, Chu Huayin, have pursued power and position all my life. If I can get a reward for doing something against my will, it's worth it. Lin Muyu was silent. She stared at the ground that was constantly retreating. Chu Huayin raised his voice and asked, Are you listening to me? Do you know what I want to tell you? I know. Lin Muyu's voice was surprisingly calm, or perhaps it was a kind of disappointment. She said faintly, If I'm not wrong, Her Majesty asked Brother Chu Huayin to assassinate Xiangyu midway. A look of surprise flashed across Chu Huayin's face. Since you've already guessed it, why are you so calm? What does it matter if I'm calm or not? Lin Muyu frowned and said, Her Majesty has accepted me as his godson. I originally thought that he trusted me a lot and would tell me everything. But now it seems that I don't understand him at all. I really don't understand him at all. Chu Huayin patted her shoulder and said, He is the emperor who stands above all and the ruler of this mainland. Naturally, he can't be soft-hearted. You will naturally understand this in the future. This is a world filled with killing and strife. It has never been as beautiful as the fairy tales. I've submitted to this world. To me, all the good things are focused on Yao Zhenxiang and your group of good brothers. Perhaps it's because of your existence that I'm able to continue walking down this path with firm faith. Lin Muyu nodded and a bright smile appeared on her face again. She said, Yes, I won't be willful this time. Brother Chu Huayin, just do whatever you want. I'll pretend that I don't know anything. That's right, this is our good you. Right, we've sent him here. You and Feng Jixing can go back. This matter, let me Chu Huayin bear all the responsibility. Lin Muyu turned her horse around and came to Feng Jixing's side. She said, Brother Feng, let's go back to the capital. There's no need to send us too far. Feng Jixing nodded. Let's go. Shouldn't you invite me to the Tingyu Tower for a drink this afternoon? Drink. Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. Okay, let's go to the Tingyu Tower. Good, straightforward. In the afternoon, in the elegant room of the Tingyu Tower, Only Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were drinking face to face. There were 6 empty wine pots beside them. Both of them seemed to have something on their minds. They didn't say anything and just kept drinking. Lin Muyu didn't use his strength to dispel the alcohol. He wanted nothing more than to get drunk. When he was about 80 to 90% drunk, he raised his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, "Brother Feng, do you know? Ever since I came to Lanyan City, you've been the person I admire the most. In my heart you're a true hero, the kind of person who's always been upright." Feng Jixing smiled. He put down his cup and picked up his chopsticks. He said, "Why? Am I, Feng Jixing, not an upright person now? If you didn't do what happened in the dragon-seeking forest, then you can still be called a hero." Lin Muyu looked straight at Feng Jixing. Her gaze was like a sharp sword that could penetrate all of Feng Jixing's disguises and lies. Feng Jixing was startled. He raised his hand and said to the attendants outside the door, "All of you leave this floor. No one is allowed to come near. If I don't go out, don't come in." "Yes, Commander." The 4 Imperial guards outside quickly left. Feng Jixing opened his drowsy eyes and looked up at Lin Muyu. He smiled. Are you suspecting Brother Feng?" "Yes, I do suspect you." Lin Muyu picked up his cup and drained it in one gulp. His face was full of pain as he said, "Xianxia didn't have 2,000 troops to kill Zhou Xian. Moreover, Xianxia didn't know Zhou Qian's location in the dragon-seeking forest. Only you escorted Zhou Xian into the Cloud Ancient Path. Only you, Brother Feng, could take out over 2,000 troops to assassinate Zhou Qian." Feng Jixing looked at him absent-mindedly. He suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. You're too smart. So smart that it scares me. If you think that I, Feng Jixing, have done something wrong, you can always pull out your dragon spirit sword and kill me. I know. I, Feng Jixing, am no longer your opponent. It won't be hard for you to kill me." Lin Muyu frowned. "Brother Feng, why do you want to kill Zhou Qian?" "He's Xiao Yin's uncle." "It's because he's Xiao Yin's uncle." Feng Jixing slammed his palm on the table and said, "It's precisely because he's Xiao Yin's uncle and the only heir of the Muyu city that he's so vicious. He even dared to order the massacre of the 5 Valleys city. If you didn't stop him, he would have been trapped in the predicament of His Majesty being a tyrant. Do you think Zhou Qian should be killed? If Zhou Qian wasn't killed, Duke Yun would never hand over the 250,000 soldiers of the Muyu city to Xiao Yin. Do you think Zhou Qian should be killed?" As he said this, Feng Jixing took out an imperial edict from his bosom and said, "This is the secret killing order that His Majesty gave me. However, it doesn't exist anymore." Feng Jixing's dou qi rose and instantly crushed the imperial edict into pieces. He stood up and said lightly, "This is what I, Feng Jixing, did alone. It has nothing to do with His Majesty and Her Highness Yin. If you want to kill me, then kill me. This is a game of power. There's no mercy or affection." Lin Muyu looked up at him and said calmly, "Big Brother Feng, do you have mercy in your heart?" "Mercy?" Feng Jixing was startled for a moment, then said with a smile, "My benevolence has never been given to my opponents." Lin Muyu pointed to the dishes on the table and said with a smile, "Sit down and drink. The dishes are getting cold. Don't waste them. They're all my hard-earned money." Feng Jixing sat down slowly and said, "This meal is on me. I owe you. As your big brother, I shouldn't keep hiding it from you. I've forgotten about these things." Lin Muyu picked up a piece of wild boar meat and put it on Feng Jixing's plate. She said, "You didn't do anything wrong. It's me who can't let go of too many things. However, I'll learn to let go and make choices in the future." Feng Jixing's eyes were full of praise. "Well, maybe you're the only one who can change the future." Chapter 259. 4 days later, the Emperor Qin Jin wrote an imperial edict to promote Min Yulin to the rank of commander-in-chief. He was sent to Yunzhong province to replace Zhou Qian as the commander of the Iron Blade Army. At this point, nearly half of the military power in Yunzhong province was under Qin Jin's control. Xianxia handed over his military power before he was exiled. The tens of thousands of troops in Songnan province were all under Si Kongfan's control. The imperial edict that Chu Huayin was promoted to commander of the Flying Mount Camp was also issued. At this point, the military power of North Ridge province, Yunzhong province and Songnan province was all concentrated in the hands of the emperor in Lanyan City. In less than 5 days, Chu Huayin returned to Lanyan City with 1,000 men from the Flying Mount Camp. He claimed that the army was attacked by the remnants of the Academy of Chivalry on the way back. The criminal Xianxia was shot dead on the spot, and the Flying Mount camp lost dozens of men. However, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others knew that the remnants of the Academy of Chivalry in Songnan province would never dare to attack the Flying Mount camp again. However, Xianxia had indeed passed away forever. He was the descendant of Xiang Wentian, one of the founding fathers of the country and the god of war. He had mastered the 9 chaotic strikes, but he had died in the wilderness. It was truly a pity. A month later, the bitter cold of winter gradually left Lanyan City. The days of spring had arrived again. Moo! Tang Xiaoxi's bell-like laughter reverberated in the temple. She had come to the temple to see Lin Muyu many times. When she pushed open the door to the office, she saw a purple ripple in the air. Purple lightning lingered around the gap in the space, accompanied by a young dragon's roar. An Acatosaurus, Little Apple, stretched his neck to look at the situation in this plane. When he heard Tang Xiaoxi's voice, he pricked up his ears and ran out of the space gap while shaking his head. He wagged his huge tail and ran towards Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi giggled as she took out the golden cauldron from the bamboo basket and placed it on the ground. She said, "Little Apple is such a good boy. Sister has brought you your favorite roast duck. It's just come out of the oven. Eat slowly, don't burn yourself." Xiaolong shook its head and started eating heartily. On the other side of the desk, Lin Muyu slowly withdrew her dou qi and returned it to her aura sea. Suddenly, the crack in space 20 meters in front of her disappeared with a crackling sound. "Mu, have you done it?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "It's a pity that it's still a bit lacking. At most it can only create a spatial crack 20 meters away." "Is that so?" Tang Xiaoxi blinked her beautiful eyes and asked with a smile, "Do you have the urge to try entering the spatial rift?" "I..." Lin Muyu shook her head quickly and said with a smile, "This mortal body of mine doesn't want to pass through space. That kind of pain is unbearable for ordinary people. Little Apple is a true dragon, so it doesn't matter. The impact of the cosmic sand is like an itch to him. If I pass through space, I'll become like that roast duck. Also, once I pass through, I won't know how to come back." "Oh, that's true." Tang Xiaoxi sat down on the chief deacon's desk with a smile and swung her long legs lightly in the air. She said with a smile, "Then it's better if you don't try it. I don't want to never see you again. Moreover, if you really can't come back, Xiaoyin will really be worried." "Alright, what is Xiaoyin doing recently? I don't have time to visit her. The matters of the Holy Cathedral and the Eagle Nest are too busy." "Her?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. "Xiaoyin is now the commander of the military police battalion. She spends at least half of her time in the military police battalion every day. She's busy with military discipline and sending people to patrol the troops everywhere. The rest of her time isn't idle either. Recently, she has been preparing for the Spring Plowing Festival." "Spring Plowing Festival? Yes." Tang Xiaoxi nodded. "The most solemn festival in the empire. It means the official arrival of spring, the revival of all things, and the people of the empire can start farming again." "I see. It's similar to the Spring Festival where I come from." "Spring Festival?" "Yes, it's also called the New Year." Lin Muyu moved the files to the side and talked with Tang Xiaoxi while reading them. Tang Xiaoxi blinked and asked with a smile, "Mu, tell me honestly, where are you from?" "Earth." Lin Muyu told the truth. "Earth?" Tang Xiaoxi was stunned for a moment, then laughed out loud. She held Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, "Mu, don't tease me. How can people live on a ball? Won't it fall down?" Lin Muyu said seriously, "The sky is round and the earth is flat. But that place is called Earth." "I see." Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said with a smile, "Then, Mu, when you're free in the future and you're free from military affairs, bring me to your hometown, that Earth, to have a look, okay?" Lin Muyu raised her head to look at her, only to find that the beautiful princess she was as radiant as the morning sun. She couldn't help but laugh. "That's good too. With little she's looks, I might be able to use the Long Xan Group's funds to help you package up. Entering Hollywood won't be a problem." "What is Hollywood?" "Oh, it's just a small port." "Oh, I don't understand. Mu is always so mysterious." "Oh right, the Spring Plowing Festival is the day after tomorrow. Didn't the Divine Sanctum prepare a Spring Plowing Festival celebration?" Yes, most of the files that have been processed these days are about the Spring Plowing Festival celebration. The Divine Sanctum has bought a lot of ale, rice wine, and a lot of food. There will definitely be a lot of drinking that day. I see. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. I thought Mu could celebrate the Spring Plowing Festival with me. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of Tang Xiaoxi's background. Although she was the princess of Qihai City, she had to stay in Lanyan City to celebrate such a festival. Actually, Tang Xiaoxi should be very lonely, right? So Lin Muyu put down her pen and said with a smile, if Xiaoxi doesn't mind, you can bring a few guards to the Divine Sanctum to celebrate the Spring Plowing Festival with me. We won't go home until we're drunk. Can I? Why not? I have the final say in the Divine Sanctum now. Then it's a deal. At noon during the Spring Plowing Festival, His Majesty should be hosting a banquet to entertain the officials. With our status, you and I will definitely be invited. We will celebrate the festival at noon at the Zetian Palace and at night at the Divine Sanctum. All right, I will get someone to prepare a room for you in the Divine Sanctum. Oh right, Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi jumped off the desk and looked up at him. Don't tell anyone about me using four-dimensional energy to cut through space. It will be very disadvantageous for me. I know. Xiaoxi is very sensible. Ah, that's good. I will continue with my work. You can wander around the Divine Sanctum for a while. I will accompany you when I'm done. All right. As soon as Tang Xiaoxi left, a Divine Sanctum guard stepped into the office and said respectfully, Deacon Lin, he said that someone from the Longdan army camp is looking for you. His name is Fingxi. Can you let him in? Fingxi is here? Lin Muyu was taken aback. She smiled and said, all right, let him in. Yes. Not long after, Fingxi walked in a mercenary outfit. He even wore the badge of the Longdan army camp's vice captain. He smiled respectfully and said, thank you for your hard work, Captain. You must be bored from reading scrolls every day. Lin Muyu stood up and smiled. Fingxi's here. This way. Someone bring some tea. There's no need for the trouble, Captain. Fingxi cupped his fists and sat down on a chair. He said, I have two matters to discuss with you. What are they? Just yesterday, a man came to Dragon Rocky Mountain and took Hu Xiaoyun away. What? Lin Muyu suddenly stood up. Her face was full of shock. Fingxi, you mean? Long Qianlin is not dead and has returned to Lanyan City? Did something happen? Was he discovered? Yes, everything is safe. Fingxi nodded and said, General Long Qianlin came to Lanyan City in disguise. It is said that he has settled down in Mingshan Province, one of the 4 provinces in Lingnan. He has sought refuge with his cousin Commander Lin Yu. He came to Lanyan City to borrow Madam. He also asked me to tell you that he is deeply indebted to you and will repay you in the future. However, as a wanted criminal of the Qin Empire, he can't enter the capital to visit you. Is that so? Lin Muyu felt relieved. She smiled and said, it's good that he is fine. Long Qianlin is a talented general. It would be a pity if he died like this. Fingxi chuckled. I admire you for your love of talent. But don't worry, Mingshan Province is thousands of miles away from Lingbei Province. The mountains are high and the roads are long. Long Qianlin will be very safe in Mingshan Province. Yes, I hope so too. What about the other matter? Oh, it's about attacking the Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Group. Fingxi's eyes lit up. The Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Group has 8,000 mercenaries and is quite famous in Lingbei Province. Now they want to expand their territory to Yunzhong Province, which happens to be in conflict with our Longdan Army Camp's sphere of influence. They have already issued a letter of challenge to Longdan Army Camp 2 days ago. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. What are the chances of Longdan Army Camp winning? Fingxi took a deep breath and said confidently, if it's just the Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Group, we have a 100% chance of winning. But if this subordinate's guess is correct, the Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Group will join forces with the Sacred Flame Mercenary Group. This way, the total number of soldiers will exceed 17,000. How many soldiers does Longdan Army Camp have now? More than 15,800. Fingxi cupped his fists and said, even if the number of soldiers is balanced, this subordinate can guarantee a complete victory. Under the training of Lady Luo Yu and this subordinate, Longdan Army Camp practices cavalry, archery, battle formations, and so on daily according to the Imperial Army's standards. I believe that their combat strength is even greater than the same number of Imperial guards. Moreover, they are well equipped, so this victory is more than 80% certain. As long as the Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Group and the Sacred Flame Mercenary Group are eliminated, our Longdan army camp will become the #1 mercenary group in Lingbei province. No one will dare to challenge us then. As he spoke, Fengxi grinned and said, however, there is a more troublesome matter. The Flying Mount camp of the Imperial capital's garrison is less than 5 miles away from our Dragon Rocky Mountain. After all, this is a fight between 3 large mercenary groups for territory. Once the Imperial army is alerted, I'm afraid that the Flying Mount camp will not sit idly by and watch us continue to grow stronger. Don't worry about this. Good news. Online Games Reigning the World has officially been published. You can directly search for Online Games Reigning the World on Dangdang in Taobao. Students who want to relive and collect the stories of Shu Yu by scholar Ling Shui, Ling Yu and Ice-T, don't miss it. Chapter 260. Lin Muyu took a sip of tea and said, the commander of the Flying Mount camp, Chu Huai, is my elder brother. As long as I write a letter, he will not touch the Longdan army camp. Don't worry. That's great. Fengxi smiled and said, Madam, do you know who's backing the Blade Mercenary Corps and the Sacred Flame Mercenary Corps? I do. Lin Muyu said faintly. The commander of the Sacred Flame Mercenary Corps was originally a Chiliarch of the God Might Battalion. He only joined the Sacred Flame Mercenary Corps after committing a crime. The Divine Marquis Xing Yifan is undoubtedly the backing of this mercenary corps. As for the Blade Mercenary Corps, their weapons, rations, armors and pay all come from the Imperial General's residence. This mercenary corps is probably Wuxia's private army. Since Madam knows. Fengxi's expression was solemn. Do we still want to fight? Don't worry. Lin Muyu leisurely leaned on the chair and said, the Empire's laws prohibit the cultivation of private armies. Both Wuxia and Xing Yifan are aware of this rule. Therefore, the Empire's army will not easily participate in battles between mercenary corps. Of course, I used the Flying Mount camp to help Dragon Rocky Mountain because I have the Dragon Talisman. Although Wuxia is the Imperial General, he doesn't have any military power. There's no need to be afraid of him. Fengxi nodded and said, but what if Divine Marquis Xing Yifan uses the God Might Battalion to help? The God Might Battalion? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, if Xing Yifan really uses the God Might Battalion to attack the Empire's registered mercenary corps, he will be breaking the law knowingly. Go all out and fight. As long as you can destroy the God Might Battalion, it's worth it even if the entire Longdan army camp is destroyed. Fengxi was stunned. Madam, the Longdan army camp is your blood and sweat. So what? The God Might Battalion will always be a disaster if they stay in Longyan City. I have long wanted to remove this poisonous thorn, but I didn't have an excuse. Good. I will do it immediately. Okay, go. After Fengxi left, Lin Muyu still leaned back in her chair, and countless thoughts flashed through her mind. Longyan City was the capital of the Empire, and the collision between mercenary groups was also the fiercest among the 12 provinces. But after all, it was a duel between mercenary groups of more than 10,000 people, and this kind of battle was no different from a war. It was hard to say whether the officials of Yunzhong Commandery and Songnan Province would regulate it. Moreover, the Empire didn't allow mercenary groups to develop freely. In fact, all the major mercenary groups had backers in the imperial court. This was also one of the main reasons why the founding emperor Qin Yi had formulated the mercenary strategy. Once the empire's rule was threatened, these registered mercenary groups could be incorporated into the empire's army at any time to strengthen the army. Lin Muyu created the Longdan army camp just for this day. After all, as the emperor's godson, he was very famous, but the number of troops he had was pitifully small. The Eagle's Nest Battalion had 700 people at most, and the Divine Temple had less than 1,000 people. Compared to Feng Jixing, who had 30,000 imperial guards, and Chu Huaying, who had 17,000 flying cavalry battalion, he was really inferior. But once the Longdan army camp was officially incorporated into the empire's army, Lin Muyu could only be the commander. When that time came, he would have 15,000 elite troops and he would have the confidence to speak. At this moment, the guard of the Divine Temple outside the door reported again. Deacon Lin, the messenger from Zetian Palace, is here. Let him in. Yes. An attendant of Zetian Palace pushed open the door and entered. He said respectfully, "Madam Lin Muyu, according to His Majesty's Imperial Edict, he invites you to Zetian Palace in the morning of the day after tomorrow to participate in the spring plowing ceremony." "Okay, I got it. Thank you. Madam, you're too polite. I'll take my leave. I won't see you out." At night, she brought Tang Xiaoxi to look for Chu Yao for a meal. This time it was Tang Xiaoxi who was treating. On the other hand, Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi had finally become familiar with each other after meeting a few times. Moreover, Chu Yao and Lin Muyu addressed each other as brother and sister, which indeed made Tang Xiaoxi feel much more relaxed towards Chu Yao. She felt that this beauty, who was known as the #1 beauty in the spiritual medicine division, would no longer snatch her man away, so she became especially friendly with her. Time passed quickly, and on the second day Lin Muyu received a letter from Luoyu. The Longdan Army Camp, the Tyrannical Blade Mercenary Corps and the Sacred Flame Mercenary Corps were about to engage in a battle on the plains southwest of the dragon-seeking forest. This battle would determine who would be the king of mercenaries in the imperial capital. It also meant that Lin Muyu's private army would challenge the Divine Marquis Residence and the Lord Protector's Residence's mercenaries. Whoever won would have more authority in the imperial court. On the third day, the Spring Plowing Festival. Early in the morning, Lin Muyu got up early to wash up. The weather had also become warmer and the flowers were fragrant and the weather had also become warmer. She was in a particularly good mood and even washed her hair. Her short hair glowed faintly under the sunlight. Looking at herself in the mirror, her hair had grown longer and looked a little non-mainstream. Although it was said that the women in the imperial capital liked handsome men with long hair, such as Feng Jixing Chu Huayin, and the others who had their long hair tied up in a bun or braided into some nice-looking ends, Lin Muyu was not used to it. He was the only high-ranking general in Lanyan City who liked short hair. "Deacon Guyong, can you help me cut my hair?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I'll be in good spirits." Guyong smiled and nodded. "All right, this old man is going to cut Yu's hair again." However, Guyong did not even use the scissors. He raised his finger lightly and his fighting aura turned into a sharp blade. With a swoosh, he cut off the hair that had grown out of Lin Muyu's hair. His knife technique was exceptionally sharp, and not long after, a new hairstyle was done. Although it was not neat, Lin Muyu was naturally handsome, and this made him look casual and unrestrained. He tucked the Divine Temple's silver helmet under his armpit and flipped onto his horse. He smiled and said, "Grandpa Guyong, I'm going to participate in the spring plowing ceremony. You've also received the invitation, right? I'll wait for you at Zetian Palace." Guyong smiled lightly. "All right, this old man will go later. Deacon, you go first." Lin Muyu spurred his horse forward and very soon Qin Yan also followed. As the son of Prince Jining, he naturally had to participate. The journey was very lively, and the citizens of Lanyan City were decorated with lanterns and streamers. Qin Yan smiled and said, "Big brother, the sword absorption technique that you displayed last time. I still haven't mastered it. Tell me about it when there's a chance. And we'll talk about it when there's time." "All right, thank you very much, big brother." Heh. Qin Yan was still a martial arts fanatic as always. His obsession with martial arts caused his cultivation to be second only to Lin Muyu among the younger generation of the Divine Hall, and there were faint signs of him catching up. It was said that he was already about to break through to the first layer of the heavenly realm at any time. To have such a realm at such a young age, this was something that Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Qinlei and the others could not compare to. Outside the Zetian Palace Hall, there was a sea of people praying for blessings. Just today, Qin Jin was going to hold the spring plowing ceremony together with Her Highness Yin, praying for blessings for all the people in the world. The square was already about to be drowned by the sea of people. Lin Muyu, Qin Yan and the others could only get off their horses and squeeze in step by step, leading their horses. Days like this, it was as if all the soldiers had lost their dignity and were joyful with the people. After entering the outer city of the Zetian Palace Hall, Qin Yan's weapons and spatial pouch were all confiscated. The laws were strict, and only the imperial guards and commander-level officers had the right to bring weapons into the Zetian Palace Hall, so he could only do this. After handing the war horses to the servants, Lin Muyu brought Qin Yan into the palace. The palace was also filled with a sea of people, and those who were invited were either important officials in the imperial court, or the descendants of emperors, generals and ministers. Qin Jin sat on the throne, while Qin Yin stood at the side in a luxurious princess cloak. When she saw Lin Muyu from afar, she immediately walked down the steps and held his hand intimately. "Big brother Yu, I heard that you've been annoyed to death by reading through files recently? You can take advantage of this opportunity to have a good rest. Happy spring plowing day, big brother Yu." Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "Happy spring plowing day too, Xiao Yin. Come with me quickly, let's pray for father." "All right." Qin Yin held his hand and walked up the steps. Lin Muyu bowed and said, "Lin Muyu prays for father, may father live a long, healthy and boundless life." Qin Jin could not help but burst into laughter. Good job." Lin Muyu nodded, not knowing what else to say that would be more appropriate. However, with a sweep of her gaze, she saw that the gazes of quite a few descendants of the aristocrats in the palace were already enough to kill. Qin Yin was the #1 beauty of Lanyan City, and also the successor of her clan. Be it in terms of appearance or status, she was an existence that everyone revolved around. But now, this #1 beauty of the empire was actually being so intimate with Lin Muyu. How could this not make those young aristocrats who saw Qin Yin as their dream lover not feel envy, jealousy and hatred? Fortunately, Qin Jin came to the rescue at this moment, saying, "You, the palace will only start in a while. You and Xiao Yin follow father to the rear palace. I've stewed some lotus seed soup this morning. It has the effect of clearing the heart and soothing the qi. Come over and have a taste." As father, Lin Muyu respectfully followed the emperor and the princess into the rear palace, causing countless people's eyes to turn red. However, this was the privilege of being the emperor's godson. It seemed that Qin Jin was also intentionally or unintentionally telling everyone how highly he regarded this godson of the emperor, and not just giving him a simple title. Lin Muyu could not see through Qin Jin. It was getting more and more difficult to see through him. Qin Jin's culinary skills were well known throughout the world. The bowl of lotus seed soup he made was also very exquisite, and its aroma filled the air. Lin Muyu sat down and respectfully took a sip. She smiled and said, "It's really sweet." Qin Jin also smiled. "Then drink more." "Yes, father." After drinking 2 full bowls, Lin Muyu was worried that she would not be able to hold in her pee during the spring plowing ceremony later, so she did not dare to continue drinking. She respectfully said, "Father, I'm full now." Qin Jin smiled and personally helped Lin Muyu clear away the bowls and chopsticks. Qin Yin sat at the side and said with a light smile, "Big brother Yu, is it because the matters in the holy temple are very complicated? I heard from Xiaoxi that you're so worried that your hair is about to turn white." It's all right." "All right." After Qin Jin handed the bowls and chopsticks to the attendant, he turned around and said with a smile, I heard that you've raised a mercenary group called the Longdan Army Camp, and that they already have over 10,000 soldiers. Is that true?" His gentle words sent a chill down Lin Muyu's spine. Chapter 261. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. Lin Muyu knew that with Qin Jin's shrewdness, there was no way she could deceive him. Thus she could only tell the truth. "Yes, Longdan Army Camp was indeed single-handedly nurtured by me." Qin Jin sat down and slowly pushed a cup of tea in front of Lin Muyu. "Then what was Yu's original intention in founding Longdan Army Camp? Can you tell Imperial Father?" Original intention? Lin Muyu was silent for a moment. Perhaps it was to protect the Empire's territory. "Speak the truth." Qin Jin's voice was a little more forceful, and his eyes were filled with an irresistible sharpness. At the side, Qin Yin said, "Imperial Father, why are you questioning you like this?" "Xiao Yin, don't say anything first. Let me finish speaking with your brother first." "Yes." Qin Jin continued to look at Lin Muyu. Although you are my adopted son, I, Qin Jin, truly regard you as my own son. I hope that you can be honest with Imperial Father, is that all right? Tell me, what was your original intention in founding Longdan Army Camp? Answer me truthfully. No matter what you say, Imperial Father will not blame you." Lin Muyu's brows furrowed tightly. After a few seconds of silence, she raised her head to look at Qin Jin. "I founded Longdan Army Camp so that I would no longer be bullied and humiliated, so that I would no longer be at the mercy of others. I founded Longdan Army Camp so that I could have an army of my own, so that I could protect the people I care about. If one day my ability is no longer enough to protect Xiao Yin, there is still Longdan Army Camp to protect her. It's that simple." Whoever dares to bully me, Lin Muyu, or the people I care about, Longdan army camp will annihilate them. Imperial Father, are you satisfied with this answer? Qin Jin stared at him in shock. After a full half a minute he suddenly laughed and said, you Imperial Father really can't see through you. However, this answer. Imperial Father likes it very much. It's straightforward and responsible. As he spoke, Qin Jin stood up and gently pressed his hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder. He said, this is how the son of the King of Light should be. Whoever dares to bully you and Xiaoyin, use the Longdan army camp to exterminate them. Lin Muyu's belly full of worry could finally be put down. She nodded and said, Imperial Father is wise. Qin Yin finally smiled and patted her chest. I was scared to death. I thought Imperial Father and you would fight. Qin Jin laughed heartily. How could that be possible? He's my son. Besides, Imperial Father has almost no cultivation at all, while Yu is well versed in ultimate techniques. How could Imperial Father possibly be a match for him? Lin Muyu smiled and said, you're joking, Imperial Father. However, he knew that there were at least 50 Imperial Forest Guards protecting the rear hall. As long as Qin Jin gave the order, even if he was at the second level of the Heaven Realm, he would probably die here. The absolute advantage in numbers was not something that could be resolved with simple strength. At this time, Qin Jin asked again, if the Empire really needs the Longdan army camp one day, will you sacrifice yourself for it? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, the Longdan army camp is filled with the courage of the dragon. For the sake of the world and righteousness, what harm is there in sacrificing myself for a battle? Good. Qin Jin nodded and smiled. Good, well said. In fact, he was somewhat displeased because Lin Muyu deliberately avoided the topic and only said that the Longdan army camp was willing to fight for the sake of the world and righteousness. She did not say that the Longdan army camp was willing to fight for the Empire. This also meant that Lin Muyu was not truly loyal to the Empire, but to the justice in her heart. However, Qin Jin did not point it out. After all, he could see that Lin Muyu was attached to Qin Yin. The deep love in her eyes could not lie, and that was enough. Being loyal to Qin Yin was equivalent to being loyal to the Empire. Not long after, they returned to the main hall. The spring plowing ceremony was about to begin. Lin Muyu remained by Qin Yin's side as a member of the Imperial Guard. She closely protected her and Qin Jin as they walked out of the Zetian Palace. It was noon and 100 war drums thundered in the square of the Zetian Palace. The moment they saw the Emperor and the Princess walk out of the palace, the citizens raised their arms and cheered excitedly. Qin Jin slowly walked up to the high platform and gestured with his eyes. That's enough. Feng Jixing held a scroll in his hand and walked in front of the Emperor. He imbued his battle aura in his voice and read out loud, the Qin Empire's radiant Emperor pays his respects. For the past year, the Empire has enjoyed a bountiful harvest. The weather has been favorable, the seas have been at peace, and the people have been at peace. Now the people are praying for the blessings of the spring plowing season. As he read, he proudly brushed his cloak with the air of a general. Chu Huayin, who was beside Lin Muyu, smiled and said, Feng Jixing has such a loud voice. His Majesty has chosen the right person to read out the imperial edict. There are tens of thousands of people in the square and Feng Jixing's voice stands out from the rest. Lin Muyu nodded. Yes, not only is his voice loud but he also eats a lot. The last time I treated him to a meal he ate 8 bowls of rice. I suspect that he had been starving for 3 or 4 days before I treated him. That must be the case. He's that kind of person. Chu Huayin chuckled. At this moment Feng Jixing paused in his reading. He lowered his voice and said, If you two rascals continue to slander me like this, I will ask His Majesty to make a decision and confiscate your salary for a year. Qin Jin coughed. General Feng, please continue reading. Be more serious. Qin Yin burst into laughter. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but smile as well. Feng Jixing continued to read out the imperial edict. It took him nearly 10 minutes to finish reading. Then he handed the imperial edict to an official and led a cow over. He smiled and said, Your Majesty, the ceremony can begin. Yes. Qin Jin held Qin Yin's hand as they walked down the high platform. Below the platform was a patch of green land. Qin Jin held onto the iron plow while Qin Yin walked in front, ignoring the mud on her little white boots as she led the oxen. Just like that, the father and daughter imitated the farmers as they plowed the land. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, carried some purple yin flower seeds and followed behind them, scattering them into the soil. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin stood guard on both sides of the small patch of green land. There were also a dozen or so dragon guards standing guard with cold gazes. This place was very close to the crowd of commoners, less than 100 meters away. It was already within the shooting range of some godly archers. They could be attacked at any time by people with ill intentions. Buzz buzz. Lin Muyu placed her right hand on the hilt of her sword while her left hand was hidden in her cloak. The energy of the golden gourd circulated rapidly. She was ready to summon the walls of the gourd to protect Qin Jin, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi at any time. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. The spring plowing ceremony ended after an hour. The emperor and princess had already rejoiced with the people and returned to Zetian Palace for a banquet. It's finally time to eat. Feng Jixing smiled at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu held back her laughter. You didn't eat breakfast just to eat more? Yes. What about you? I didn't eat either. Then eat more later. The food for the spring plowing festival is very sumptuous. Yes, I know that. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and said, in order to prepare this meal, the Eagle Nest camp has entered the dragon forest to hunt more than once. 2 of them were even injured. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. Oh, since when did Commander Lin care so much about the work of his subordinates? Isn't it because I have to go through the files every day? Ha ha. Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said, You need a secretary. Otherwise, if you do everything yourself, you won't have time to cultivate. I have a total of 4 secretaries in the Imperial Army's tent. Do you want to lend 2 of them to you? The monthly commission is 50,000 Jinin coins. You're robbing me. I'll go through the files myself. Tisk, so petty. At this moment, a messenger bird suddenly flapped its wings and landed on Lin Muyu's shoulder. It was a messenger bird domesticated by the Longdan army camp. She took out the letter from the bamboo tube and glanced at it. As expected, it was Luo Yu's report of victory. My lord, in the battle from yesterday to this morning, the Longdan army camp has achieved a great victory. We successfully defeated the Tyrant Blade Mercenary Group and the Sacred Flame Mercenary Group, captured more than 8,000 people and killed more than 4,000 people. We ourselves lost more than 2,000 people, but the losses will be replenished with captives. At this point, the Longdan army camp is the strongest mercenary group in the empire. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She took out the pen she used to go through the files and replied, Well done. Immediately rest and adjust the troops. The messenger bird flew away. Not far away, Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan and Minister Luo Xing were walking together. When Zheng Yifan saw Lin Muyu, his expression clearly didn't look too good. He faintly said, My lord, Lin Muyu is riding on the crest of success. I heard that your private army, the Longdan army camp, defeated 2 large mercenary groups in the North Ridge province in the morning battle. Congratulations. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled. Marquis must be joking. I don't even know what the Longdan army camp is. Moreover, I'm an upright person and have never had a private army. In the entire Qin Empire, only the Marquis has the right to raise a private army. This is something that everyone knows. As a general of the empire, Lin Muyu naturally wouldn't break the law. Zheng Yifan raised his eyebrows and smiled. That's good. On the other hand, Zheng Fong, who was standing beside Zheng Yifan, looked at Chu Huayin angrily and sneered. Congratulations to my lord Chu for being promoted to the commander of the Flying Mount camp. I've been too busy these days and didn't have the time to congratulate you. Oh right, my sister Zheng Xiang also heard about your promotion to commander. She asked me as her younger brother to congratulate you on her behalf. Chu Huayin's face turned pale. He suddenly stepped forward and blocked Zheng Yifan's path. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Marquis, although the matter between me and Miss Zheng Xiang has angered Marquis, the fault does not lie with Miss Zheng Xiang. Chu Huayin had too much hope. Now that Miss Zheng Xiang is under house arrest, it's all my fault. I hope Marquis can forgive Miss Zheng Xiang. Zheng Yifan faintly smiled. Commander Chu, you're flattering me. Zheng Xiang has been spoiled by me since she was young. I'm afraid she won't be able to enter Commander Chu's residence. Just give up, Commander. Chu Huayin frowned and cupped his fists. Yes, as long as Marquis releases Miss Xianxia, I Chu Huayin am willing to give up. I'd rather forget about Miss Xianxia and never see each other again. Remember what you said. Xing Yifan cupped his fists and said, Then this old man thanks Commander Chu for your good intentions. Chu Huayin stood blankly on the spot. His extraordinarily handsome yet disappointed look made countless noble ladies' hearts ache. One by one they crowded around him as if they wanted to comfort him. However, they didn't expect Chu Huayin to turn around and leave without even looking at them. Chapter 262. Lin Muyu originally wanted to accompany Chu Huayin for a drink or two, but before he could even drink a cup of wine, Chu Huayin had already drunk 2 cups of wine. In less than 10 minutes he had already finished a pot of wine. His frown made others sigh. But what could they do? In this world, whether it was power, status, or reputation, which one of them wasn't more important than love? Love in this chaotic world was like a fallen leaf that drifted with the wind. How many people could have it? Not long after, Chu Huayin was dead drunk. Feng Jixing immediately ordered 2 imperial guards to send him back to the imperial army's barracks to rest. He and Lin Muyu carefully protected the emperor and the princess. Fortunately, the banquet didn't last too long. It ended around 2 in the afternoon. Qin Jin was feeling unwell and left early. After that, the officials took their leave one by one. After sending off a large group of nobles and officials, Lin Muyu led the warhorse and personally sent Qin Yin back to Phoenix Perching Hall. Meanwhile, Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang were responsible for escorting Tang Xiaoxi back to the duke's residence. Phoenix Perching Hall was very secluded. With the arrival of spring, it was filled with bird song and fragrant flowers. Most of the maids in the imperial palace were arranged to stay in Phoenix Perching Hall. Qin Yin didn't have many maids in her own bedroom. A group of maids came up from afar and escorted Qin Yin into the hall. As an official, it didn't seem appropriate for Lin Muyu to enter. Thus she cupped her fists and said, Shao Yin, I'll see you off here. Qin Yin turned around and blinked at him. Brother Yu, aren't you going to have some tea in Phoenix Perching Hall before leaving? No, there are still many things to take care of in the Divine Palace. I won't be going in. I'll come back to Zetian Hall to see you. And all right. Qin Yin smiled and gracefully bowed to Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, If Brother Yu doesn't come to see Shao Yin for too long, then Shao Yin will have to personally go to the Divine Palace to see you. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Alright, as long as Shao Yin is happy. I'll be leaving now. Yes. He mounted the horse and galloped away. Today was the Spring Plowing Festival, the busiest festival of the year in the empire. Tongtian Street was bustling with activity in the afternoon. Performers, singers, and lanterns could be seen everywhere. The streets were bustling with activity, to the point that Lin Muyu had no choice but to dismount and lead her warhorse through the crowd. On the other hand, a group of commoners were shocked to see such a high-ranking military officer walking through the crowd. After passing through the busiest part of the Zetian Temple, it was finally quieter. There were many stalls selling candied haws, windmills, sugar figurines, and other small things on the side of the road. Lin Muyu reached out to support the horse's back and leaped onto it. Just as she was about to spur the horse forward, a group of people suddenly came from the front. They were people from the general's mansion, and the person in the lead was Yuan Lian. He was holding a rope in his hand, and the end of the rope was tied around the neck of a bloodthirsty tiger cub. Halt! Yuan Lian suddenly pointed at Lin Muyu on the horse and said with a smile, General Zhenan has such an imposing manner. What, don't tell me you don't recognize us. Of course I do. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Young General Yuan has always been well. Heh! The corner of Yuan Lian's mouth rose and he said with a smile, Lin Muyu, don't ask hypocritically. Have you forgotten the bet between us? It's been a month. I wonder if that so-called dragon egg of yours has hatched anything yet. It wouldn't have hatched a dog, would it? The group of attendants and servants around Yuan Lian also laughed. The only one who didn't laugh was Ling Feng, the son of Zhenan General Ling Nantian. This group of generals' sons had always been known as Tiger Sons of Generals in Lanyan City. They hung out all day, and although they didn't have any ranks in the army, their status couldn't be ignored. Lin Muyu was startled. She finally remembered that there was indeed such an agreement. She glanced at Yuan Lian's bloodthirsty tiger. It was just a cub that wasn't even a year old. Although its claws had already matured, it was nothing compared to Little Apple. Dismounting from the horse, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "You really want to compete? If you want to compete, let's do it here." Yuan Lian sneered and said, "The crux of the matter is whether your dragon egg hatched a pet or not." "Yes, give me a moment." Lin Muyu tied the horse to a wooden stake at the side and stepped into the alley. Suddenly her entire temperament changed. Taking advantage of the fact that Yuan Lian and the others didn't come over to watch, she let out a low roar and activated her four-dimensional power. Immediately, lightning flashed and her spiritual sense broke out of her body, creating a spatial crack 17 meters away. Awoo! The Acatosaurus lazily pressed its front paw on the spatial crack and poked its head out to look outside as if it didn't want to come out at all. Lin Muyu immediately used her spiritual sense and said to it, "Come out for me. It's time to come out and stretch your limbs. When you see that bloodthirsty tiger later, just kill it directly. Don't be shy, you're younger than it, but don't show off too much, understand?" Little Apple flipped over and fell from the spatial crack, crying out in pain. It was simply too stupid and its body had become a lot more bloated. It had eaten a lot. Lin Muyu knew that it was a kind of fruit that grew on a tree in the wasteland of an alternate dimension. It had a very unpleasant smell, but this Acatosaurus seemed to like it. She turned around and walked out of the alley with the Acatosaurus. While walking, suddenly the little dragon's front paw stepped on empty air and fell to the ground. Its sharp beak hit a mouthful of mud. It whimpered and used its front paw to poke at the mud. It sat on the ground with its hind legs like a stupid dog. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded and thought to herself, "Good heavens, I told you not to show off too much and you actually acted like this? What a good actor, this grandson's future is limitless." Yuan Lian, Ling Feng and the others laughed. Ling Feng said, "Lady Lin Muyu, what hatched from your dragon egg?" "It's probably an earth lizard." Lin Muyu touched her nose and said, "In short, it doesn't look like a dragon no matter how I look at it." Yuan Lian said with a smile, "I'm afraid it's not as simple as an earth lizard, but an extremely stupid earth lizard, right?" Lin Muyu was not angry and said with a smile, "Young general, do you still want to compete?" "Of course, why not?" Yuan Lian's face turned cold and said, "But Lin Muyu, you have to be careful. My bloodthirsty tiger already has the ability of flame blast. Be careful not to roast your lizard with a mouthful of fire. At that time, I won't be responsible for compensating you 20,000 gold coins. Instead, you'll have to pay me 50,000 gold coins." Lin Muyu nodded. "No problem, if your bloodthirsty tiger can really roast it, I'll grab a handful of cumin and share it with everyone, how about it?" "You're really interesting." Yuan Lian ordered. "Everyone move aside, prepare for the beast fight." Everyone formed a circle and the commoners nearby also gathered around to watch the show. Their faces were full of joy and they were discussing spiritedly, "Oh my, someone's fighting again, I wonder what the stakes are this time. I think it's General Yuan Xia's son. That bloodthirsty tiger is a legendary beast. Ordinary people can't even get close to it. The other person seems to be someone from the Holy Temple and he's even a deacon. Wow, the Holy Temple against the General's mansion, interesting. I wonder if that lizard can beat the bloodthirsty tiger. That lizard looks incredibly stupid, I don't think it's a match. After all, how can a lizard be a match for a tiger? Not to mention the bloodthirsty tiger king. Just wait for the show. Bloodthirsty tiger, prepare to attack." Yuan Lian said as he rubbed the bloodthirsty tiger's head. However, the bloodthirsty tiger was naturally fierce, and it did not have a soul contract with Yuan Lian. It turned around and bit Yuan Lian's palm. Fortunately, Yuan Lian's cultivation was not bad and he easily dodged the bite. However, he could not help but feel a little embarrassed. In comparison, the Acatosaurus was much more obedient. It sat on its hind legs, its front paws supporting itself and its head swayed back and forth. It blinked its large eyes at Lin Muyu and its tail swept the ground. "Go on, fight." Lin Muyu glared at it. The Acatosaurus immediately rushed out and roared at the bloodthirsty tiger as if provoking it. On the other hand, the bloodthirsty tiger as the Tiger King also roared. The two vicious beasts did not look like they were fighting one-on-one, but more like they were acting cute. Yuan Lian sneered, "Lin Muyu, if your lizard is really killed, don't regret it." "Don't worry, I won't regret it." Lin Muyu crossed her arms in front of her chest, lazily watching the scene of the beast battle. Finally, the bloodthirsty tiger took the initiative to attack. With a roar, its entire body ignited with raging flames. It pounced forward, raised its front paws and swatted at the Acatosaurus. The onlookers all screamed. A bloodthirsty tiger that was not even a year old could have such a powerful attack. It was really not simple. However, the crowd seemed to have overlooked the 5 silver lines on the Acatosaurus's head. How could a 500-year-old spirit beast be afraid of a bloodthirsty tiger that was not even a year old? Moreover, the Acatosaurus was actually very smart. When it fell to the ground, it had used the soil to hide its 500-year-old spirit beast mark. Facing the bloodthirsty tiger's attack, it directly twisted its body and wrapped its tail around its head. Its entire body shrunk into a ball, and it used its red crystal scales to resist the bloodthirsty tiger's attack. But the bloodthirsty tiger's fierce slap sent the Acatosaurus flying like a frisbee. It slammed into the wall and bounced back. It looked like it would not survive for long. Awoo! The bloodthirsty tiger pressed its front paws on the ground and roared. Flames soared into the sky as it released its ability. Flame Blast. Whoosh! A fireball rushed out, heading straight for the Acatosaurus. The earth lizard is finished, Ling Feng said with wide eyes. The onlookers were also dumbfounded. They did not expect that the outcome of this beast battle would be decided so quickly. However, under everyone's gaze, the little dragon suddenly spread its body and pressed its front paws on the ground. With a roar, faint golden dragon patterns appeared on its body, and it actually collided with the energy of the flame blast. Energy splashed out. The bloodthirsty tiger's red crystal scales were extremely tough, and it directly scattered the weak flame blast attack. In the next instant, the Acatosaurus had already arrived in front of the bloodthirsty tiger, completely releasing its dragon chi. A majestic and domineering aura caused the bloodthirsty tiger to howl in fear. However, it was already too late. The Acatosaurus raised its sharp claws and attacked with its illusory claws. Blood splattered everywhere and the bloodthirsty tiger's head split open. The little dragon was like a ferocious beast, rapidly devouring the bloodthirsty tiger's incomplete spirit stone. The onlookers were almost petrified by the scene. They all murmured, "What a ferocious earth lizard so strong." Chapter 263. Young General, you've lost. Pay up. Lin Muyu extended her hand, demanding the 50,000 Jin coins from Yuan Lian. Yuan Lian was still staring at the carcass of the bloodthirsty tiger on the ground. He had spent a lot of effort to raise this bloodthirsty tiger cub, but just a few seconds ago, it had been slaughtered by that unremarkable earth lizard. What, you can't afford to lose? Lin Muyu raised her brows, picked up the Acatosaurus's tail and tied it to the horse's back. She smiled. If you can't afford to lose, then I'll pretend there was no such bet. I don't care about a mere 50,000 Jin coins. Cut the crap. Yuan Lian fished out 5 gold notes. Each one is 10,000 Jin coins. Watch carefully. Thank you, young general. Lin Muyu took the gold notes and stuffed them into her universe pouch without even looking at them. She cupped her hands and said, I still have matters to attend to in the holy temple. Young general, we'll meet again. She mounted her horse and galloped away. The onlookers dispersed one after another, but Yuan Lian stood where he was, so angry that his whole body was trembling. At the side a servant whispered, Young master, these 50,000 gold notes were given to you by the old general to buy 1,000 spears from the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce. If you give it to Lin Muyu, how are we going to explain this? Explain what? Yuan Lian gritted his teeth. I'll explain it to father. What are you blabbering on about? Yes, please calm down, Major General. Yuan Lian raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu's back. Clenching his fists, he said indifferently, Lin Muyu, remember this debt well. I'll make you pay for this sooner or later. In the sacred hall, the afternoon training ended quickly. As the deacon, Lin Muyu personally guided the instructors in their training, and even explained the tricks of circulating dou qi. Everyone listened with great interest, but the effect was probably negligible. True strength had to be experienced personally, and it was useless to just rely on oral explanations. After the trial ended, Lin Muyu returned to the office and finished reading a pile of files. She felt so tired that her entire body was exhausted. She laid down on the chair and took a short nap. Her spiritual sense slowly sank into the Yi, only to see that the second layer of the Yi had already turned into a lush green field. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor was too diligent. Had he already treated Lin Muyu's second layer as a farm? Whoosh. Lin Muyu's spirit sense condensed into a physical form and fell into a paddy field. She took a deep breath and surrounded her body with battle chi. She began to absorb the spiritual energy from the paddy field. The paddy field quickly withered and dissipated, turning into spiritual energy that nourished Lin Muyu's soul and body, which had been squeezed to a pitiful state due to her cultivation. Not long after, the ground in her EC began to tremble. The spiritual field in the distance suddenly distorted. A human figure quickly condensed in the air. It was the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor. His complexion was many times better than before. His face was ruddy and his blood-red cloak fluttered in the wind. It seemed that the Demon Emperor of the past had regained 70 to 80% of his majesty. He gave off the feeling of an emperor that people had to worship. Lin Ruoji, are you here to steal my spiritual field again? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor asked with a smile. Lin Muyu opened her eyes. We agreed on a 50-50 split. I'm only here to collect rent. There's no such thing as stealing spiritual field. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor smiled and said, Lin Muyu, since you've already learned the first layer of the void-shattering godly power, do you think that this emperor has no more value? If that's the case, why don't you open your EC and let me go? I've been sealed in your EC for far too long. This is too unfair to me. Oh. Lin Muyu said with a cold gaze. Why not? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor said coldly. Do you want to imprison this emperor's divinity for the rest of my life? Lin Muyu's expression was slightly respectful as she turned around and cupped her fists. Demon Emperor, I know your ambition and your character. Now that the world is at peace and Cathay is safe, I can't imagine what will happen to this continent if you are released. Qin Yi destroyed your body. Will you let the Qin family go? About this, the 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch let out a calm smile. That won't happen. I'll be honest with you, even though Qin Yi is dead, that old prick has been stubbornly trying to hunt me down for hundreds of years. I'll need his descendants to pay for it. Once I regain my body and my strength, I'll surely kill every single member of the Qin clan. However, I also know that you like that little princess, Qin Yin. This emperor can promise you that I won't touch a single hair on Qin Yin. What do you think? Lin Muyu turned around and looked at him. Oh, Demon Emperor, you're wrong. As long as you have killing intent in your heart, I won't let you leave my EC. If I die one day, I will take you to hell with me. You. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor was so angry that his face turned red. I don't know how to repay kindness. I taught you so many abilities and you treat me like this? Consider it as me owing you. Lin Muyu leaped up and her body slowly rose up. The image of a golden dragon lingered around her. However, this is my EC. Everything is decided by me. Unless you promise me that you won't kill anyone after we leave, I won't promise you anything. All right, I promise you. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor waved his hand. After I find my body, I won't kill anyone. Are you satisfied now? Lin Muyu smiled. Demon Emperor, your godhead lives in my EC. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? The anger and killing intent in your heart are surging. I know it very well. You're courting death. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor shouted angrily. He leaped up and starlight gathered around him. He raised his hand and struck. 7 Glorious Stars Transformation. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She just exerted her strength. The golden gourd came out of her body to protect her. The golden dragon that lingered around her body roared continuously. Dragon power was added to the walls of the gourd, forcefully blocking the energy of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's 7 Glorious Stars transformation. She wasn't hurt at all. She looked at the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor with a smile. You have divine power, so do I. You have the 7 Luminaries' profound energy, but you're just a soul. I have a complete body. Moreover, you're just a parasite in my EC. Do you think you can still kill me? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor trembled with anger. Stinking brat, Lin Ruoji, just you wait. One day this emperor will twist your head off. Let's see how you can still be with that Qin Yin. Lin Muyu flew out and his spiritual sense left his EC. He took a deep breath. After absorbing the spiritual energy in the spiritual field, his whole body felt refreshed. However, the state of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor worried him. The seven luminaries' demon emperor was a god of murder. His entire body was filled with the power of destruction. If his soul was allowed to find a new body and reconstruct his godhead, this mainland would probably be beyond redemption. Although Lin Muyu was unwilling, it was really, if I don't go to hell, who will? Only he had the ability to restrain the profound energy of the seven luminaries' demon emperor. Only he could stop this catastrophe. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. The afternoon sun shone lazily on his body. Specks of light elemental spirits jumped happily in the air. Lin Muyu gently opened his hand. The golden martial soul slowly appeared. Those light elemental spirits quickly gathered in his palm. In the blink of an eye they turned into a small ball. These light elemental spirits were formless light energy. They could not be controlled and were extremely difficult to control. Lin Muyu suddenly had an idea. He stood up and with a low shout the wall of the gourd emerged from his body. Under the sunlight, the golden wall of the gourd shone with an extremely dazzling light. However, the sunlight eventually began to quickly penetrate the wall of the gourd and the battle aura armor, successfully shining on his body. Light could surpass all transparent matter. This was its essence. In an instant Lin Muyu's heart was in turmoil. Ever since the gourd martial soul comprehended the light of dawn, Lin Muyu's understanding of the light element had reached a whole new realm. She could even communicate with the light elemental spirits very easily. Summoning and dispersing them was effortless. If this was the case, could she combine the law of light with her swordsmanship? Cheering in her heart, Lin Muyu immediately thought of the lightning strike. It was a simple swordsmanship that Chu Chu had taught her. Although it was simple, it could kill people in the blink of an eye. It was concise and clear. However, with the improvement of her cultivation, the lightning strike was replaced by the thunderclap violent wave. In terms of lethality and penetrative power, it was far inferior to the thunderclap violent wave. However, at this moment Lin Muyu had a very bold idea. If the lightning element of the lightning strike was replaced by the light element, would her attack be able to penetrate the enemy's shield and battle armor like what she had seen just now? If it was really possible, perhaps even the dragon scale armor, which was known as the world's best defense, would not be able to do anything to her. Thinking up to this point, he no longer felt sleepy. He quickly pulled out the dragon spirit sword. After letting out a shout, the power of the law of light surged from his arm into the blade. Suddenly, the dragon spirit sword let out a joyous sword cry, and light slowly enshrouded it. This was the power of dawn provided by the martial soul gourd. It was just that it was contained in the blade, ready to be activated at any time. Taking a giant shield and placing it next to the office table, Lin Muyu tried to swing the sword for the first time. Buzz! The power of the law of light danced on the blade, but it did not cut through the giant shield in front of him. It seemed that the speed was not fast enough, causing the impact to be slightly weaker. No rush, no rush. Lin Muyu was confident. If speed was not enough, there was still a way to make up for it. Four-dimensional power. Using the 0.5% divine power gifted by the seven luminaries demon emperor to produce four-dimensional power, it could greatly increase the speed of the law of light's operation. This might be effective. Just like that, he swung the sword again and again, but he failed again and again. Although Lin Muyu's idea was bold and novel, it was also extremely difficult to achieve. This was destined to be a very arduous process of self-creation. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.